anybody get wrong? I mean, the polls were just wrong.
Just the numbers. Now look, you look at the exit polls, whether they got the top line numbers right or not. What is clear is there was a hunger for change among a lot of Americans, and those who felt strongly about, those who were angered and disenchanted with government, overwhelmingly were supporting Donald Trump, notwithstanding the fact that 2/3 of them said that they didn't think that he had the temperament or the qualifications for it. This was a primal scream on the part of a lot of voters who are disenchanted with the status quo. And Hillary Clinton, I always say, and we don't know how this is going to turn out. So I'm not trying to impute things here that I don't want to, but my operative phrase as a consultant was, you're never as smart as you look when you win, and you're never as dumb as you look when you lose. You look back now at the things that Donald Trump has been doing with his time in terms of where he's campaigned and the hammering away relentlessly at the message of Hillary Clinton as 30 years. And it has found an audience, and that's what's made this race close. And you look at these rural areas, in all these states, in county after county, he is outperforming Mitt Romney dramatically, and she's underperforming President Obama dramatically.
And I mean, in every interview with Kellyanne Conway, she talked about sort of hidden Trump voters.
Right.
A lot of Trump supporters were saying that. It seems like they were right all along.
That tonight. I've been talking to somebody who works on the Trump campaign, who's involved with their digital operation and their polling. And they say that in some places in rural America that they have 10% more turnout than they originally thought. That they were saying he was going to get more, but it's even more than that. And that when you look at the exit polls and you look at the white working class voters, who are about 4 in 10 voters, and you look at voters in this country, 39% were voting for change. And you see that half of the electorate in the state of Michigan felt that trade takes away jobs. And you say, as Dana was saying earlier, that Hillary Clinton didn't even visit the state of Wisconsin in the general. You put that all together, and what we see is a massive outpouring among voters who perhaps didn't vote before, who perhaps were hidden, and they came out tonight, particularly in rural areas of this country, and said, okay, we want somebody who's different.
But Michael's very honest. I mean, the Democrats thought with all the star power of their surrogates, with the high popularity of President Obama, and President Obama out there on the stump, and Michelle Obama clearly did not do what they had hoped it would.
It's not only that it didn't do what they hoped it would do, but I can't help but sit here tonight and wonder if it didn't boomerang and have the complete opposite impact, because it reinforced who really represented the establishment in a year where you didn't
which is something Jeffrey Lord talked about even last night during that big star-studded event with all of them on the stage. Jeffrey and Kayleigh's interpretation of that image was a lot different than a lot of other people.
And remember, as he stood on that stage, Anderson, and he made light of the fact, Donald Trump did, that he was going it alone and he didn't need a piano and he didn't need a guitar. It probably ended up benefiting him. My one observation, having watched the night unfold thus far, with a big chapter still to go, is that it's very little about party tonight. It's much more about class. It's much more about income. It's much more about what separates us beyond our party affiliation. I think David's onto something when he talks about the rural versus urban and suburban divide.
Well, it also seemed like the Democrats were counting on, they had the unions, but it seems like maybe they had a lot of union leaders, but a lot of rank and file were going for Donald Trump.
And those, union folks, even, in states like Michigan, and we don't know what's going to happen there, a lot of those folks, those were Bernie Sanders supporters. And it looks like maybe those supporters went with Trump, and that the Clinton folks were maybe over-relying on getting the band back together again, the Obama coalition. And even though they did see some surges in states like Florida, I mean, Florida was up in terms of the Latino vote, it was up in terms of the black vote too, but it just wasn't enough for her to win that state.
And here's something interesting to me in these exit polls, and we'll be looking at them for a long time, I believe, but when voters were asked whether Donald Trump has the temperament to be president, it seems to me the Hillary Clinton message got through. 63% say he doesn't have the temperament. 61% say he is not qualified to be president. 52% say she is qualified. And yet we see in state after state here, voters coming out and voting for change. And I think that was a real motivator.
If change was what you wanted as a voter, I mean, it's clearly they were going for Donald Trump.
And that trumped everything.
He was a very, very bright, incisive vehicle for their frustrations about the status quo. And, our friends over here have been talking about this for some time, and you can see the manifestation of it. We don't know how the story ends